The seventh cardinal sign of the zodiac, Libra. The objective archetype of the scales of Libra demonstrates the innate sense of equality that must be displayed in the face of the other individual. The association of the inherent twofold duality of Libra may be due to the astronomical similarities found between the two equinox points of the spring and fall, at which time both points exhibit the hours of day and night, which are equal in their length. There are two solstices as well, but these are not equal in their hourly duration of light. Thus, these two astronomical equinox points, when considered as a whole, tend to resemble a mechanical scale of two equally balanced weights. If Aries is the awakening of the individual, then Libra must be an awakening of the individual who realizes itself as being a part of an even greater community of individuals. If fall reflects the spring, then the community must reflect the individual. Because of this innate sense of oneness with their community, Libra often seeks the approval of others through negotiating a feeling of respect within personal relations. This quality, in relation to the sign of Libra, has come to be known as charm. Libra's need to demonstrate charm as a symbol of grace and social acceptance correlates to their mysterious innate need for companionship, which, although is found in most all individuals, tends to present itself as more of a symbol for the Libra individual rather than a common everyday necessity. Interestingly, this aspect of the seventh sign can often be discovered at a point of rejection or even termination of a common relationship in favor of a romantic relationship with the opposite sex. To this degree, the sign almost seems enslaved by the conceptual need for companionship, when it is so willing to sacrifice everything else in its wake. This sacrifice brings up the subject matter of marriage, which ideally was implied as a marriage of the opposites, the sun as the male and the moon as the female. Marriage, ideally, is a symbol of harmony, and represents between two people on a local level, which is happening on a mass community level, and taking place in the form of cooperation in all creative social ventures. Libra seeks to unite the microcosm of their personal relationship with the macrocosm of worldly human endeavors. This may manifest in an interest of profession in law or other philanthropic activities that bring together human efforts to serve the community at large. Because this inner need to sacrifice for the community at large is so great in the Libra individual, the sign is often accused of being all things to all people. But for that matter, many of these natives may serve well in politics or corporate management where their personal attention towards others can be utilized. The origins of this sign concept have been to some degree already touched upon earlier, as the two scales resemble the measurement of the two equinox points. The history of this sign is long and convoluted. However, it is well known that at one time this constellation was known simply as the claws of the scorpion, which is part of the constellation that is to follow afterwards. Jupiter in Libra. Jupiter in Libra bases his philosophical faith of salvation on a concern with justice and moral principle while dealing with the business of personal relationships. These people tend to be generous in their personal considerations that concern the wishes and needs of others because they understand the innate natural law of treating others as one would like to be treated himself. This kind of consideration produces the ability for dealing with the public, which enables them to be the mediators and diplomats in the field of public relations. However, because of this position of Jupiter is also known to carry forth some of the same desires that are usually found within the Sun in Libra, which is often manifested in being a character that is all things to all people. Eventually, this kind of political attitude will more than likely lead to double standards, in which eventually the natives might find themselves to be distrusted by the very people that they had been petitioning for. But for the most part, they are usually very refined individuals who enjoy living graciously and can be known as being delightful to spend time with socially. And being so, they will always prove that they are extraordinarily interested in the lives of others. And for that matter, they have a definite skill for bringing harmony into almost any situation they deem worthy. The eighth fixed sign of the zodiac, Scorpio. The archetype of Scorpio the Scorpion demonstrates the nature of hidden activities within the structure of accumulated events. It has long been understood now that it was traditionally observed by ancient peoples that what the community took from the environment was to be given back in some form. In whatever form this ritualistic sacrifice took, the basic idea reinforced the values of giving and taking as a necessity to the natural order and a continuation of the world community cycle. The keynote of these activities is the transformation of resources, which pertains specifically to the acts of provisional consumption as a method of survival. For this matter, the role of the ancient hunter is vitally allied with the zodiological role of Scorpio as a secret presence that stalks its prey with the common weapons that are in essence the tools of sacrifice, symbolized by the scorpion's stinger. Thus, stalking is the hidden activity that exists amidst the commotion of other numerous events, which amount to the necessary deception that ultimately garners the intended success towards consumption. Hunting is an ancient activity that later became more seasonal and thus eventually became officially recognized in the cooler months found within the autumn of Scorpio. In opposition to this was the later rise of the seasonal activities generated through agriculture, which were designed for a more consistent and broader mass consumption. Given this ancient concept of stalking, mysteriously, people born under this sign tend to have a very subtle approach to human relationships, and sometimes it is more as though they were stalking the relationship for its inherent weaknesses rather than contributing to its stability. For this matter, they may not always appear diplomatic, preferring to express their version of a situation by filtering out emotional exaggerations or simply remaining silent. Like the ancient hunter, this helps maintain their inherent tendency towards an elusive secrecy that determines the outcome of the situation in their favor. On a more mundane level, this primitive act of sacrifice and consumption correlates to the challenges of the world of finances as a modern method of survival. Within the financial world, certain provisions are generated in order to help generate further gain, or in other words, more productivity. We have come to know this provision collectively as a social program called taxes. The mass activities of the industrial world are dependent on this provision, which represents an accumulation and use of mass resources. Bringing this concept closer to home in the company of two individuals, these accumulated resources are to become the shared resources between two people that allow for an increased increment of profit often found through the alliance of marriages. Thus, the theme of shared resources that is to be found within this mysterious sign of Scorpio. The constellation of Scorpio remains to be the most obvious symbol of the night skies of summer, where it looms in the southern skies till dawn. At one point long ago, the autumnal equinox occurred in this star group, and for that matter has always been linked to a disappearance of the sun. Furthermore, the hunter constellation of Orion has always risen in the night sky just after the constellation of Scorpio has set, and vice versa, reinforcing the link of the hunter god with the times of the year when the sun is in Scorpio. Jupiter in Scorpio. Jupiter in Scorpio bases his philosophical faith of salvation on the ability to command inner psychological growth through the means of secret external forces. Because in our world personal growth often amounts to money, these people may have the ability to extract financial funds in both unique and unusual ways, which others have ignored. For that matter, Jupiter in this sign often indicates large-scale involvements in matters relating to joint or corporate finances, taxes, insurance, and other financial legacies, such as inheritances. Because Scorpio is a fixed sign and Jupiter relates to the philosophy of religious and personal salvation, these people can often be intense and uncompromising about the accepted standards that are related to these collective principles that concern personal behavior, or often they will simply be overtly conventional or orthodox in matters relating to religion, so as to deter this conversation completely from their personal standpoint. This is no doubt because these individuals prefer to be private concerning their goals and ambitions, and discussion of such matters might only be revealing of some of their underlying intentions. For that matter, one-on-one personal in-depth encounters rather than social gatherings are often their preference, where they can more easily express their intense and passionate vision of a relationship. Indeed, for many of these people, sex is a form of personal salvation. The ninth mutable sign of the zodiac, Sagittarius. The archetype of the centaur archer demonstrates the mode of growth and evolution through the establishment of individualized goals. In a continuance with the symbolism of hunting carried over from Scorpio, the archer conveys the same concept of seeking out or stalking an item or thing, but in the Sagittarius phase the objective is more nebulous or goal-oriented, serving the individual on more of a fulfillment level rather than on a provisional or financial level. This fulfillment may be in the form of mental expansion through education, or through the concept of travel to foreign lands that often reveal a different tone of religious experience, which are bound to be intellectually expanding, therefore perpetuating the desired personal transformation not obtainable through books or commonplace teachers. Conventionally, the zodiological archer is accused of settling for this personal transformation at what is often a local level by simply absorbing the traditional family religion, and in failing to see through to this goal of expansion then becomes the typical religious fanatic who then insists on the indoctrination of others as its objective. This is what is often sold to us as the archer's brand of enthusiasm. However, the accusation is steeped in the very prejudice that it attempts to point out, insisting that Sagittarius is the phase of orthodox religion, but really only because this is an orthodox astrological perspective. In truth, Sagittarius is the phase of individualization, wherein religion was originally supposed to insulate and reinforce the spiritual growth of the individual rather than be a fixed method of group regulation, or in other words, population control. which can be anciently understood as politics. This modern-day astrological misnomer has led us far astray from the true target of the archer's arrow. In my opinion, modern Orthodox religion, as is commonly understood, may not even have a place in the cycle of the zodiac, despite Orthodox religion's delicate affiliation with the mutable signs in general, which tend to correlate to the growth of mankind collectively. But, however, because of the cultural legacy associated with inheritance of religious experience from the past, Orthodox religion nonetheless finds a comfortable association with Sagittarius, whom is a symbol of the original ancestors who taught the masses. The blind inherent to the common philosophies and dogmas is simply awaiting a transformation that has not yet come, because more often than not, and likely, his culture has denied it to him, and in the spirit of the archer's sign he must seek knowledge elsewhere. This fact embodies the meaning of the arrow and the archer who aims it. The natural inclination of honesty and good sportsmanship serve as the antithesis to the previous Scorpio phase of secrecy and one-upmanship, which characterizes the needed primitive function of individuated survival that exists amidst the natural elements. The archer's indoctrination or philosophy, be it religious, offers a purposeful cooperation perhaps first conceived of in the Libra phase, which guarantees mass community fulfillment. However, this is not the aspect of individuated religious and/or spiritual experience. Therefore, the principle of the archer sign must be understood for all of its potential duality, just like all of the other 11 signs of the zodiac. On the one hand, it can be seen as the protector of all cultural inheritance, which would include the concepts brought about through Orthodox religion as well as other philosophies that emerged from our past. On the other hand, it is the revolution in consciousness that takes one beyond the point of misunderstandings perpetuated from out of the past, often through these very same religious and philosophical concepts. This is to say, if Sagittarius is not a reformer, then truly it is not actually an archer. This is where the phase of individualization comes in as a point of realization for this sign, and is the true source of its spiritual enthusiasm, which is a personal discovery uniting oneself with all that is. It is a private experience, which others can only understand on their own. The constellation of the half-man archer is the most controversial of all the signs for its implications. In truth, the original concept was more astronomical in nature, and was an allusion to the movement of the universe, which was conveyed in the symbolism of the horse's body. Furthermore, there are examples of half-man archers that have a feline's body instead of a horse's. In ancient times, the movement and intent of wild animals to feed themselves correlated to the movement of the heavens. Jupiter in Sagittarius. Jupiter in Sagittarius bases his philosophical faith of salvation on a concentrated codification of thought and action that is supposed to engender the correct result. For this reason, people of this Jupiter position often attempt to live by the literary quotations and principles of other successful people and/or institutions, hoping that this will serve them by bringing about the social reward of success that they seek. These quotations may be derived from religious traditions or from the various intellectual institutions that have emerged from out of our ancestors' generation. From these sources, Jupiter in Sagittarius attempts to discover a system for governing one's conduct in the face of one's peers, which is the social caste system that their personal recognition ultimately depends on. For this reason, it is reasonable to assume that Jupiter in Sagittarius has more a specialized social disposition than that of the Sun in Sagittarius, due to the integrative and outreaching social forces that are promoted astrologically by the planet Jupiter. Because of the intense social inquisitiveness of this position, an interest in the history of foreign culture and its connection to the ancient religions, races, and social systems of world history are acquired, which are studied for the profound enlightenment they might offer to the mind, which seeks to be socially fulfilled as well as informed.